Welcome to episode 304 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing Heather and Jason DeVan. They just did a film called Along Came the Devil 2, which is a sequel to their earlier film. We talked through the original film, how that got made, and then ultimately how this sequel came to be as well. So stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they are very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mentioned in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 304. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I'll teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in the guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing Heather and Jason DeVan. Here is the interview. Welcome, Heather and Jason, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Ashley, for having us.
So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business? And Heather, why don't you go first, and then Jason will circle back to you in a minute.
So I was actually born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and by the time I was 18 years old, I started traveling internationally as a model, and I landed in Los Angeles when I was 21, and literally a couple of weeks later, Jason and I met.
Huh.
So that's and then we've been together ever since, and that background of things, and then being in LA and working as an actress, I did a lot of commercials, and we got married and started a family.
Okay, perfect. So Jason, maybe give us the same sort of scoop on you and bring us up to speed.
Okay, yeah, I'll try and keep this brief. I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I was your typical kid who grew up in the 80s, raised probably by my TV set. My parents probably didn't want me watching as much TV and movies as I did, but that's what I loved doing. I had a passion for, writing and just dreaming about just someday being a part of the industry, which I probably didn't even know what the industry was at the time. I found my way out to New York and then LA, doing some, video game work, Dead Space 2 and 3, and acting in some commercials and things like that, until I found my true passion, which was writing and directing and working on our own films.
Which we discovered together.
Which we were together by that time.
Yeah.
I see. So Heather, when you moved out to LA, though, was that sort of your intention? You wanted to segue from modeling into acting?
Exactly. Yeah. I actually had a roommate. Her name, I'm going to shout her out. I had a roommate in Paris who was an actress. Her name's Amy Smart. And I'd always wanted to sort of be an actress. I did some acting, but it wasn't until I met her and the way that she talked the difference between modeling and acting that I was like, this is what I want to do. And then I got this gig in LA to fly out for a few days for something. And I literally did the job and called my dad. And I was like, I think I'm going to move out here.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived there ever since.
Perfect. So it's interesting that you guys both, Jason, you're saying that the writing, directing is kind of your passion, and Heather, you're going from modeling to acting and finding your passion. Neither one of you have mentioned producing, but that's also a big part of this. And I'm curious, how does that sort of fit into the overall picture? Is producing something you're passionate about, or is it something you do just to try and get these projects off the ground?
Producing is my favorite part of the whole process,
Okay.
to be honest with you. It's like, I think once we started having, someone once said to me, producing is a lot like being a mom, and it's kind of the truth. Because when you run a household, it kind of is the same thing as like running a set. So it kind of worked together. And my biggest accomplishment, I feel like, in my entire life is being a mom. We have 3 boys, and our oldest is 19, and our youngest being 12, who is in the film actually playing Xander. And you kind of like, as you're producing, you helm all of the cast and the crew, and you take care of them like they're your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's
and
just talk.
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say, as a producer, you learn to spin a lot of plates, and you learn a lot from, especially as when you're first producing, you learn from your mistakes and correct them on your next project. It's just a process that you learn trial and error, and you learn and you get better.
And you learn to appreciate your mistakes.
Yeah, sure. So just talk briefly, just for a minute or so, talk about your first feature film, Mindless. Maybe you can just talk about how you got that project off the ground.
Well, with that one, we were approached by Michael Biehn, and he asked if we would be interested. He asked me if I'd be interested in directing it, and I said, sure, let me look at the script. It was actually 2 different scripts, and I turned down the one film because it just wasn't kind of our cup of tea, and then the other one I thought was really good. I just wanted to know if I could do some rewrites. And they were like, well, we have to check with the writer. And then the writer said, well, I have to look at the rewrite, and ended up hitting it off with the writer. And that's kind of how we fell into it. And we did that movie. And that movie, it hit some obstacles, so I don't believe it ever came out. They had to put it on hold. But we didn't have anything kind of to do when it came to that producing side of that.
Yeah.
But that's when
Heather, I came on as a producer.
Well, you came on, but we didn't have control of where we could take it, distribution.
Yeah.
It kind of was down between their company. It wasn't a DeVan Clan production.
Yeah.
But that's when Heather and I realized we could do this.
Yeah, we had.
So just comment real quickly. This guy Michael Biehn that approached you. How did you get in a position where guys like him are approaching you, asking you to direct these projects? Just how did you line that up? Is it from commercial directing? Did you have some sort of a background that way? Maybe just give us a little insight there.
So, go ahead.
Okay. Well, so with Michael, my son Tristan had booked a movie called The Girl, where Michael Biehn played his father, and Michael Biehn is the Michael Biehn from Terminator and Aliens and all that. And I was fortunate enough as an actor in Hollywood to have some good mentors, one being Jay Russell, the movie director. So I knew my way around the camera and sets pretty good. And I was on set one day, and you know how when people are mic'd up, then they can hear everything that's going on set? I was in one of the scenes, and I was actually just telling my son, the camera's going to be here. Make sure you're open to camera, the lighting. They'll probably shoot you on this lens, not knowing that they were all sitting behind monitor, kind of listening. And my wife and Michael's wife were talking, and they asked, I guess my wife kind of threw me into the fire by saying, "Oh yeah, my husband's going to direct someday." So next thing you know, they're asking me to do their next film, and that's how that pretty much came about.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's a great classic, Hollywood story. So no, thank you for sharing that. So let's dig into your latest film, Along Came the Devil 2. Maybe to start out, you can just give us a quick pitch or log line. What is this film all about?
So this one is about a sister coming home to find out what happened to her family, her aunt and younger sister. And when she comes home to this town, there's definitely a secret going on that has a lot to do with possession and her past that she's unaware of with her own mother and her own family. Her estranged father is actually back in town when she comes home, waiting for her, and meets with her, and then we take the film into a completely different direction to wow the fans.
The film opens up with a phone call from her aunt telling her that she needs to come home. So she rushes home to find that her aunt and her sister are completely missing. And the reverend of the town knows something, but he's not sharing what he knows with her, and her whole mission is kind of find out what's happening. And then a lot happens along the way.
I guess. So this is a sequel.
We raised the stakes.
So this is a sequel to
It is a sequel, yes.
previous film. When you did the first film, were you always planning on doing a sequel? Was it sort of you envisioned this maybe 2 or 3 or 4 films in this series? How did you approach that with that first film?
We approached it hoping to do a sequel, not knowing that we were going to be doing one this soon. But we definitely it was in our mindset as we were writing to do a sequel for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So let's
talk.
And
the first one's based on true events.
Oh, okay.
So we were able. So doing the first one, we were able to, coming into part 2, branch off and take it into the direction we really wanted to take it as writers and creators.
I see. Perfect. Let's talk about your writing process. It looks like, at least on the first script, you guys collaborated. And then in this one, it looks like, Jason, you had the writing duties. Maybe you can talk a little bit about your collaboration. And I'm especially interested to hear a married couple collaborating. How do you navigate when there's disagreements and that kind of stuff? Maybe just talk through that process a little bit.
I think the workflow kind of comes up. Normally I have like the ideas, like the concept of where we want to take it from start to finish. And on this one, we knew we wanted to surprise the fans and really scare them. And, it has a very much Shining feel to it. Mm-hmm. So when we finished the treatment, when we dove into the script, Heather and I work really well together. And she's really good at, taking something maybe I'll say and adding her touch to it, and vice versa. And that's what we enjoy is feeling like when we write or have a script that we have a man and a woman's touch to it, mm-hmm. So that the reader or the audience is feeling kind of like both sides. That's just something that we enjoy doing together.
And I will say, being a sellingyourscreenplay.com thing, internet, what helps us as writers is starting off with a treatment. I really feel like a treatment is so important because it builds the beginning, middle, and end of a story, and then you just add the dialogue in between. Mm-hmm. So for us, that is in its communication as well.
Yeah. How much time do you spend on that treatment versus how much time do you spend actually in final draft writing the script?
It just depends on. It just depends on the.
Yeah, I can give you an example for this one. For this movie, we were on a time schedule, so we had 6 months, but we had so many notes and so many ideas from part 1 that we were able to carry over to part 2 and answer questions. It made it a lot easier to do the treatment because we knew what we wanted from start to finish. And then we were able to tighten up a script fast. So honestly, in this case, and then not most cases, but this one, it took us about 2 weeks. Because we just literally locked ourselves in and went to work writing full days. Yeah. I don't even know what our hours in our day were, but it was a lot of writing. Mm-hmm. Whereas in other cases, you may write a script and then have a distribution company like Legendary tell you, we love this, but what if you change the roles around and then you're writing again for another 2 to 3 months on another script, which is an example of another one we're working on.
Yeah. So it sounds like you guys had something in place with this one where you had sort of the production company set up and the funding in place. And so then you just basically had 6 months to write it. Is that kind of, and that was based on sort of the first film?
We basically had our distribution from part 1 say that that it's doing so well. How soon can you get started on part 2?
I got you.
And then that's kind of when we dropped everything and got the ball rolling.
We had 6 months to do the whole film, from writing, producing, pre-production, and production.
Okay, wow.
We literally only had. We didn't have much time to write the script at all, which is another thing that helped because we didn't second guess ourselves. A lot of times, as writers, you can second guess yourself. You can do rewrites. We didn't have time for that. So, and we feel like it helped.
Yeah, because and being a director, I knew that I could work with my actors and really get their input on even
set.
Some of their, what they were feeling, what direction they wanted to take the character, if we were on the same page or not, the way they played it. A lot of trust that we have with our actors, like Bruce Davison. They're really good at what they do, and they're professional. So it made it easy. We knew we had something, and we know we have something special with this one, so we think everyone's really going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, hopefully. So was there any back and forth? I'm always just curious to hear about the development process. It sounded like there just wasn't time, but was there any back and forth with the distributor about notes? You sent them after 2 weeks, you had a version of the script, you sent it to them. Did you get any notes back where you had to rewrite from them, or they were a little bit more hands-off?
No, that was the surprising thing was our distribution fully trusted us. They said, just go do what you do. We trust you. And it was kind of a sight unseen thing where they, were all on board and they hadn't even seen the script or knew what we were going to do.
I think
they were just trusting us to make it.
We built a great relationship with them on the first one. That it was just it's the industry is a lot about trust. It really is with whoever you're working with.
I gotcha. So what does that actually look like? So they've got your first film, it's doing well, it's making money. Do they then come back to you and say, okay, we'll write you a minimum guarantee for this much money to go and produce the film? Do they actually put in hard dollars into the budget? What does that actually look like just in terms of the deal?
Absolutely. So that's if your film is doing well, and then like in our case, they come back and they give you your MG up front, which is basically telling you which a lot of distribution companies in today's market will not do. A lot of times you'll finish a film and you'll be looking for an MG, and you may not necessarily get it at all, or you may get a smaller MG than what they used to do back in the day. And in our case, we got a substantial MG, with our distribution company, which allowed us, to get started and get rolling on the film and get it done. Yeah.
And so I'm a big proponent of building these relationships with these distributors, and I talk about this quite often on my podcast. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. What was with the first movie, Along Came the Devil, just the first one? How did you find this distributor? Did you do the film festival route, get a little buzz that way? Did you just approach them cold? Did you have relationships prior to this? Maybe talk about that a little bit, because I think that sounds like it's really the crux of a lot of what's independent filmmaking is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this is all our, it was technically our first film that we were taking, to distribution. So, we had the naivety. We thought, we're going to make this film and a distribution company is going to want it right away in part one. And so we didn't know to do, film festivals or anything. And basically we decided, okay, let's start getting it into film festivals when it was fully completed, and Cinequest Film Festival was one of our first ones we got in. And when we did that, that's when we started generating distribution companies interested in taking our film.
I gotcha.
So definitely, if you're doing an independent film, do festivals if you can. And like anything, don't be discouraged if festivals don't, get you in. A lot of times, the bigger festivals are all who or having it in with certain festivals, but it only takes one yes. You just want to get your film out there and get it seen, especially if you believe in it, and because so many times I have a lot of filmmaker friends that say, I got turned down by this festival and this festival, and it's not always the case of that their film wasn't good enough to get in. Sometimes they've already had, a certain amount of films that they've selected that were coming in regardless. And theirs didn't get in. So I wouldn't try not to be discouraged if your film doesn't get in. Just find a festival that you can get it into. Find a way that you can get it in front of a distribution person, at the AFMs, at some kind of market, any way you can. But you have to believe in it to get others to believe in it as well.
Yes. And like Jason said, you only need one yes.
Yeah.
You're going to hear a lot of no's. You only need yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Sound advice for sure. How can people see Along Came the Devil 2? Do you know what the release schedule is going to be like?
So it comes out October 11th, and it's in select theaters and on all VOD. You can pre-order it now on iTunes. Okay. It's going to be on Amazon Prime, Guru, I forget.
So pretty much all.
Yeah, all VOD, and it's video on demand.
Yeah. And
Perfect.
you can check out part 1 on Hulu.
On Hulu
And all pretty much all via platforms.
Okay.
And I would suggest watching part 1 first because it really will. I mean, part 2 you can watch on its own too, but then it goes right into it, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely is a sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. What's the best way for people to keep up with what you guys are doing? Twitter, Facebook, blog, anything you're comfortable sharing, I'll round up for the show notes.
We mostly share a lot of our stuff on Instagram, which our company is DeVan Productions, and then Along Came the Devil, the movie. We're on Twitter as DeVan Clan and Facebook as well, DeVan Clan Productions.
Or Along
Came the Devil, the movie.
Okay. Perfect. I will round that stuff up for the show notes. Jason and Heather, I really appreciate you guys coming on and talking with me. Congratulations on this film, and I look forward to talking to you again when you have your next film ready.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Yes, our pleasure. Thanks.
Have a great day.
Hey, you too. Thank you. We'll talk to you guys later.
I just want to talk quickly about SYS Select. It's a service for screenwriters to help them sell their screenplays and get writing assignments. The first part of the service is the SYS Select Screenplay database. Screenwriters upload their screenplays along with a logline, synopsis, and other pertinent information like budget and genre, and then producers search for and hopefully find screenplays they want to produce. Dozens of producers are in the system looking for screenplays right now. There have been a number of success stories come out of the service. You can find out about all the SYS Select successes by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/success. Also on SYS podcast episode 222, I talked with Steve Deering, who was the first official success story to come out of the SYS Select database. When you join SYS Select, you get access to the screenplay database along with all the other services that we're providing to SYS Select members. These services include the newsletter. This monthly newsletter goes out to a list of over 400 producers who are actively seeking writers and screenplays. Each SYS Select member can pitch one screenplay in this monthly newsletter. We also provide screenwriting leads. We have partnered with one of the premier paid screenwriting leads services, so I can syndicate their leads to SYS Select members. There are lots of great paid leads coming in each week from our partner. Recently, we've been getting 5 to 10 high-quality paid leads per week. These leads run the gamut. There's producers looking for a specific type of spec script to producers looking to hire a screenwriter to write up one of their ideas or properties. They're looking for shorts, features, TV, and web series pilots, all types of projects. If you sign up for SYS Select, you'll get these leads emailed directly to you several times per week. Also, you get access to the SYS Select forum, where we will help you with your logline and query letter and answer any screenwriting related questions that you might have. We also have a number of screenwriting classes that are recorded and available in the SYS Select forum. These are all the classes that I've done over the years, so you'll have access to those whenever you want once you join. The classes cover every part of writing your screenplay, from concept to outlining to the first act, second act, third act, as well as other topics like writing short films and pitching your projects in person. Once again, if this sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, please go to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. Again, that is sellingyourscreenplayselect.com.
On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing Wendy McComb, who is a real do-it-yourself filmmaker who's done dozens of short films and now has her first feature film out, the indie dramedy Birds Without Feathers. She built a decent following on YouTube with her short films, so we talk about that a little bit, and then we also dig into her new feature film and how she was able to get that produced. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. That's our show. Thank you for listening.